What's up, guys? Prettyhair here with a PPL Fall Finals prediction video, and I have my very special guest, my good friend and captain of SK Gaming, Mr. Coach Bitey.
Coach here. Nice to see everybody. Hope you're having a great time.
Hell yeah. I'm liking these sweatshirts. Where'd you get these?
So,
Somebody did these for you?
fancy viewer named Marcellix. Now, I probably butcher his name. It's okay. That's what I do. But he does custom T-shirts. And on the back, it's got my Twitch handle. And on the front, this one we've got Ruckus. And you probably saw the Ash
brought
one.
Ash.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And then we've got Cheer Borker here, of course. The official name is Cheer Borker.
Cheer Borker. That's his name.
Borker.
He's here to support every single team. He doesn't care where they're from, and he's even got a special little BR flag.
Tell me about this BR flag, because I know you were getting into the story a little bit, but what is the significance of the Brazilian flag?
You see, SK CS squad, big boys.
Yeah.
Big boys. And all of them are from South America, and kind of for SK picking us up and showing them some love, I decided to buy him a little flag, and he loves flags, so we gave him a BR flag.
Hell yeah.
Compliment his look.
Well, the reason, guys, that we are here is to do some predictions for the PPL Fall Final LAN, and we do have the bracket up on screen for you guys. So without further ado, let's get into this one. First match of Thursday will be Virtus Pro versus Mousesports. Now, I've got this one as 3-0. I think I gave everyone a game, I think, in most of my sets kind of throughout the tournament, just because that's how LAN goes, in my opinion. I think a lot of things can happen. But Virtus Pro and Mousesports, right, this is the 4th and the 5th seed from Europe, right? So it's comparable to NaVi and Splice. But unlike NaVi, Virtus Pro has actually taken a game off of both NaVi and Ninja Pajamas Fnatic, the only team that they were unable to beat. And they've really started to, they got a lot of momentum towards the end, really where it matters. Like, if you came out strong and then slowed down towards the end, which is a little bit where Renegades are falling, that's less good to me, right? You want to come, you want to end, I think, on a good strong note. Come here with that kind of reputation, with that momentum. Whereas Mousesports, they've got roster inconsistencies, not a single win in the PPL.
I think what you're going to see with Mousesports is they have the pressure to try to perform here, but just given the record and the inconsistencies of like swapping players out, I mean, we've seen it at HRX Masters in Valencia. When you pull out players, it's really hard to get that cram done in under a month.
I mean, talk to us about that. I mean, you guys swapped out Danny for DreamHack. How do you prepare with a sub?
So when you're in that position, when you've got the sub on the field, you literally first have to ask, what can they play?
Yeah.
Now, if you're fortunate and you have an old teammate, Z1 was my teammate. Well, he's also my teammate too.
Yeah.
So we already had history, we had experience, we know what he can play, and basically it's a drag and drop kind of thing. If the pieces fit, they fit. Now, because I'd played with Z1 for probably about 6 months up until HRX, we knew roughly how we would work together and mesh together, and I'd even taught him different things to run on the field. So that was much easier than just pulling in. I mean, I think I had heard that they'd been pulling in people who haven't been playing for months, and sometimes they'd been trying out a lot of different pieces. And without that baseline synergy, you're looking at a month of bonding. You know, we got lucky, really lucky when we did the Z1 swap for Danny. But, I mean, it really depends on, can he fill everything, and are your positions still stable enough? And that's what we're going to have to see coming into these matches.
Okay, so heading down to the bottom side of the bracket, first match to be, it's not going to be played in this order, but we're just going to go round by round. Basically, the first round matchup for North America is NaVi and Splice, which I've got at a 3-1 because basically the opposite of what I've said earlier on is that Splice ended on a pretty strong note.
Oh, yeah.
They went out with a bang. They weren't given any ground, really. And I think just because of that, I don't expect them to beat NaVi. I wouldn't surprise if they didn't take a game, but I think because of LAN, maybe there's some envious nerves. It could be some Splice nerves, any of that stuff. I'm going to give them a game here, but I do think NaVi are going to take this one at the end of the day.
I honestly would say that this is more of a toss-up than you think.
Really?
I think these are going to be nail-biters. And what it comes down to is Splice, even though they've really struggled on getting Ws, they take games from everybody. You know, they can take rounds. They actually took Renegades to the brink. It was a 4-3 finish. They had a 2-1 split, and the last game was 4-3. So the potential for them to have these kind of permanent upsets is there. And I think Moonchopper's bringing a lot to the table.
That is true.
His ability to have mastery of all these new classes and his ability to carry is really strong.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be draft theory. Who drafts better and plays those heroes better is going to decide the final win. I think it's, of course, leaning towards NaVi just because, you know, their performance over the over the league was better, but I think Splice is a hot contender that you could put bets on.
I think that's that's a really good point. I didn't think about Moonchopper right when I was doing these. I almost kind of forgot about him. He was just played with Splice for the last weekend of the PPL and not of their other couple of weeks. So that's a big one. That could go a couple of different ways. I would definitely, that could be easily a 3-2
That's a game
split.
to watch.
That is absolutely.
And if both teams bring out max power, you're going to have a real series.
So for this next round, I've got obviously Fnatic winning over, Virtus Pro winning over Mousesports. So they will be moving on to face Fnatic. Like I said, Virtus Pro, only team they haven't beat yet on the European side of things is actually Fnatic. And Fnatic being a pretty LAN experienced roster, I think a lot of it comes down to how Fisheko and Cybe 8 can actually do.
Yeah.
But Virtus Pro, I think they're hard to pin down. You almost never know what they're going to do, right? So I think
what you're going to see here is that basically there's going to be big powerhouses of this LAN. And I think this is one of those instances where it's the powerhouse versus the contender. Virtus Pro has the talent, they have the experience, and they have the ability to take these games in rounds.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think Virtus Pro is like the underdog that could actually end up taking this tournament potentially?
I would say that they have that potential. Now, whether that would happen, I think it's a slim chance. But if they come full bore with plans for every single situation and did some kind of homework that gave them that edge, you could see them do it. They could win these matchups. Now, whether that happens, I still think it's going to be, like you said, probably a 3-1. And I'd say there's even a potential for a 3-0. But they might be close sets. But what we're going to see is one draft's it's probably going to be a bombing draft game, and there's going to be a 4-0, and Virtus Pro will come back and try something either more stable or less stable. And depending on what they've got set up, I think that's where you'll see them either success or flounder for a bit.
You've got Gara, Bugsy, and Teal all behind, very experienced drafters, I think, behind those Fnatic drafts. And like I said, Cybe8, Fisheko, as long as they're performing, I think they're going to be on the right picks. I think they're going to be in a good spot in terms of situationally through the draft. So it's going to come down to them, I think, by and large. To the bottom side, EU semifinal, it's going to be Ninjas in Pajamas versus NaVi. And this one is, I think this is going to be mad close.
I think it's going to be one of your hottest games. Yeah. Because these two teams are neck and neck. And I would look at these results and I'd watch these games and you'd just be on the edge of your seat. You don't know. You don't know who's going to win. Now, this is just a coin. I think this is a coin flip trust. I couldn't pick either team. I like all the players. They're all super experienced. You got Unbe and Spunky, and you've got old freaking gangsters coming into NIP now. Yeah. Being so fired up. They were nearly number one.
Nearly.
And I think this is one of those matches where you just can't pick it.
You can't pick it. I agree. I think it's 50-50 toss-up, maybe 51-49. I'd give the slight edge to NiP because they have the incredibly LAN experienced roster. Yeah, every single member on that roster has played a lot of LANs and Paladins. I think that experience could probably win them out at the end of the day. But like we said, it's going to be incredibly close. And then we've got you boys, the SK boys right versus Team Envy. And one of the few other sweeps I think I have, just because you guys also have a pretty LAN experienced roster when you kind of take a step back and look at it. Big question marks for me that you guys have worked out is Danny. Danny feels just more comfortable. He feels like a lot better. He feels like something, not only, he's no longer holding you guys back in any way. He is, in fact, sometimes a win condition for you guys that can just kind of pop off. And that, I think, is going to be very, very good for you guys and potentially one of the few sweeps.
I feel like this is probably the harder thing to predict because I would never assume a 3-0. Like, I couldn't. I would say, like, it's going to be hard fought and the better team's going to win. Because I don't like making that prediction. Like, I'd love for a 3-0. I think we're going to win. I'm pretty sure we're going to win. But as to agreeing with the result,
I'm almost looking at it because I remember when I was making these brackets yesterday, I almost gave everyone a game. At least, because it was LAN. I almost forget, maybe I didn't change that 0 to a 1, but I think Envious, they'll probably take one, because when they came in and started to come up, they gave you guys trouble back in the day. They were taking games, sets off you guys. So not saying they're your Achilles heel, but it is definitely something I think you guys are respecting. And
we put in a lot of work to draft against them. They have a lot of options, a lot of power players, and it's just I think it'll be anyone's game technically, but I lean to myself to win. But Again, it's always weird predicting your
Yeah,
own
it is
spot.
weird. I think you guys are lighter on the Drogo side, which is a power pick for Envious.
Yeah.
So how that, I'm not going to ask you to obviously reveal any drafts or anything like that, but just personally, I think that's a big one to look out for. And then moving down to our other North American semifinal, we've got G2 versus the Renegades. Almost the same story here, I think, as with you guys versus Envious. G2 are actually the reigning LAN champions right now. So
Yes.
they've got the LAN experience. They're nutty when they're playing well. The Renegades are basically all fresh, except Shady Shades, who is coming off a break, albeit he didn't seem to slow down much during that break time. But I think G2, I'm going to give this one to them 3-1.
There's something fancy with Renegades. Like, online, they're the G2 Kryptonite. Like,
Yeah?
literally, if they were Superman, that's Lex Luthor, and he's always scheming, and somehow they drive every single game to that last setup.
Yeah.
And what you end up seeing in those games, especially the last one, like if Renegades won, they would have swapped seedings. And I mean, it wouldn't move them on the bracket, but it would just put this in a different light where one play or two plays would have flipped that round. And then it would have been Renegades being on top here of the bracket seeding, particularly. Not that it matters, but I think if you're going to have anything that's going to be super close at this phase too, it'll be Renegades and G2. What carries Renegades is Loki and Shade's ability to just probably two of the best direct damages in the game.
Yeah.
The Andys, the Shaws, the Lians, they've basically made it work without having any real blasters.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean, it's like literally they will not draft a blaster if they can, I got Leanne, I got Andy, we're good to go.
That's what I was saying in Shade's interview. I was like, I think Envy would be hard-pressed to make it through you guys in the bracket, but if it was Renegades, Envious, I think Renegades would have trouble with that matchup to some extent because the Drogos is such a power pick for all the blasters, really. The Bomb King, because Random Noob has been forced to play it so much, it's like it became so much better for him also. And
I would say that Bomb King's the better hero, usually.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
I think what you're going to see is it's going to be between Z1's position on G2. Does he fill in for that position that they'll be playing with? Because they're going to have a little bit less experienced blaster. They'll have Doe, and Doe's great. But I just feel like, the Drogos isn't going to be there, so it's going to be deeps versus deeps and tanks versus tanks.
Yeah.
And I think it's a pretty neutral game.
One other random
other than
thing
experience.
I just want to mention about this matchup is you've got Stormtroopies Genos and Cuss Cuties Damba. Now, G2 have been doing the ban Damba pick X or ban Genos pick X for somebody to go to a Pip or a Saris. Do you think that might be throwing Renegades off a bit? Do you think they'll be prepared for that eventuality?
I would hope that they've prepared drafts for it because G2 loves to try to bamboozle you on drafting, and that's one of the hard things to pin down on them because they're comfortable on Pip. They don't mind Saris. They don't mind it, but they might struggle with it. They got the Damba, Saris, Pip. They could do Ying. He could do Grok. I mean, Cuss literally could play any champion, and he could even flex to DPS.
Right.
They've been doing some amazing work, and I think it's going to be hard to outdraft G2 when they're on their streak.
Okay, let's move on to the next round here. We've got the EU Finals, Fnatic versus Ninja Pajamas. I've got this one going Fnatic for 3, another pretty much coin flip. I think there's a lot coming down to just, again, Fish Echo and Cybe 8, how they perform. This matchup, the core of these rosters, it's been those two in the EU finals of everything, and most of the LAN finals of everything, right up until, the DreamHack Valencia spot. And, it's been a coin flip. Any other day, it could be one of the two teams taking it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when two giants collide, wherever the pieces fall, because these will probably be best of 7s. There might be a LAN meta that just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't
There will be.
see it, but something's going to be comfortable. Something's going to win.
I mean,
and somebody's going to pull this thing out that you're going to see like, oh man, look at this hero.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know Sky was this good.
I mean, you've got a LAN meta that has almost evolved in basically every single LAN that we have ever held that's different from the online. If that wasn't enough, you've got Terminus in play now. That hasn't been in play during any of the online stages, and now people just have to deal with it, work it out.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
And while I don't like playing him, he's a monster. Like, his ability to fully negate damage, ults, and all sorts of different things just by putting up his hand and then turning it off and putting it back up. Like, catching damage and just, like, it's like a bubble. It encapsulates your buddy. You can, if you got a ruckus in front of you and he's your ruckus, you just...
It's a bit, yeah. It's basically a big rectangle.
Yeah, and it will
around in front
protect that one man.
Yeah.
So I mean, that makes for a lot of interesting play. His ult is just like, surprise, I'm still here, and then you have to think about this the whole time. So I think it's going to come down to what people do to kill him, and how people play against them, and then how well they play with them.
Yeah. All right, so that's a coin flip. Another coin flip, I think, probably for the first time, I'm going to call this one a coin flip. And unfortunately, this is where I do have you going out of the tournament. But just based on prior LAN matchups with these two teams, G2 has been heavily favored. I wouldn't say that they're heavily favored this time around, but I think just personally, from past experiences, you have to give it to them.
Yeah, you can't argue with that perspective on it. I mean, in scrims, we run it even. I mean, I think it's going to be, what's going to end up happening is it's going to be as hot as Valencia. There might be somebody getting ahead and then somebody crashing. And I think it's going to just ride that wave of who's feeling it the most and whose drafts end up being better. Because we're not the same drafting. We don't draft alike. I don't agree with all their meta choices, and they don't agree with ours. And it's going to be who makes the smartest plays and the best ones overall. And I think we're going to win. But, you know, that's me.
Hell yeah. I wouldn't expect anything else. All right, now we can move on to the final round of the tournament here. And this is where things get interesting, because these are the two... I'm excited for this as well, because this is the first time we've had a forced NA-EU final.
Yeah.
So I've got Fnatic taking the tournament 4-3 in the finals, just barely over G2. I think everything from the EU finals and NA finals onto the grand finals, all of that is close to coin flip status. But G2 have shown that they can beat EU. But I think Fnatic just being flexible, versatile, they can play a lot of different stuff, a lot of high-octane compositions that move fast and frag hard. That is I think that's going to be their biggest boon this tournament. Nobody moves as fast and frags as hard as I think Fnatic when they go like 3 DPS, and they are just kind of scary. And I think that, in combination with this being a LAN environment, can build a lot of scary momentum for that team.
I feel like I would go the other way. We've already seen what happens in Valencia. There's I think in North America in particular, there is a lot of strive for just, I want to innovate. I'm going to run Xin. I'm going to run Grover. I'm going to run Grok. I'm going to run Pip. And
G2 is the team to do it.
Yeah, and what that does in this particular matchup is that they literally have every single play style kind of memorized. You saw that with the China matchup, and China was the one to dethrone the old District 69 lineup of this Fnatic squad. So I think what it's going to be is you might see G2 lose early, start running adaptations, and start pulling out drafts that you've never seen before and have different results. And I think that's where the strength of the NA region comes through, is that there's such a push to make your mark, have your style of play. And I mean, I'm a proponent of that too. And I think that there is a great chance that America's going to win this region again. So
I would love it. I think that would put officially to rest the EU is just better than North America. I think that would be kind of the nail in the coffin for that stigma. Again, the reason I think this might go slightly in favor of Fnatic is because I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping they learn that lesson the hard way from DreamHack Valencia and will be one of the most flexible and willing to adapt rosters
I think
here.
You're probably right on, I think one big difference is this flipped from earlier seasons, was the closest of the EU region is really hot. Yeah. NaVi could beat anybody on that side. NaVi could have beaten Fnatic if they had gotten through. So maybe Fnatic has that.
You're saying Fnatic?
Yeah, it said
that is the most Bitey pronunciation of all the Bitey pronunciations.
He's going to beat me.
Fnatic.
I can't not pronounce it like that because it's how it's shown, okay? Fnatic, though, has been tried and tested in fire of Europe. Now, as good as NA is, we still went through 7-1 as my team. Now, nobody in Europe would have said that Fnatic could have been on top there. So I think there's just that crucible of fire, and they've probably come out a lot stronger just based on where they were in Valencia and now where they're at with their new roster formulation. And I think, that could give them that edge that they were looking for.
Okay, and then I've got you guys going down again in another probably pretty coin flip matchup, two Ninjas in Pajamas down there in the consolation match, which is our we'll be electing our third person to go to Worlds. I do expect you guys to qualify for Worlds 110%. I hope you hold that expectation as well for your team, because you guys have, at the end of the day, you have the best record coming into this LAN, but proving on LAN, that's something you guys have yet to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think us and G2, like, it's going to be the trial of the NA meta again. Like, is it good enough? Are our drafts dynamic enough to make the adaptations we need to beat out kind of the tried and true methods of, I think Europe is really, really just like, they will stay to their setup and they're disciplined.
Yeah.
And does it work?
Let me ask you this. Do you think it's one meta is better than the other, or is meta kind of a looser term in this game, and is it more of like a rock, paper, scissors sort of thing where one A is going to beat B, is going to beat C, is going to beat A?
Well, the way that it usually runs on the field is, you know, the regions develop what they don't want to fight. We build drafts around what we don't want to see in a game.
Yeah.
And that usually doesn't sync up very well. Like, in previous LANs, you know, Europe might ban Makoa and NA might leave it open.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many instances where we prioritize banning sometimes Shaolin over the Makoa, or even the Bomb King of the Drogos, just to block out a team like Envious with their power picks.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's always the same case in the EU, but it's going to be I think it's just whose theories prevail. That's what's going to decide the winner.
So looking at this bracket, man, I'm getting really excited. I think this is going to be a really crazy good weekend of Paladins. And we are going to do one more of these after Friday. After the tournament has concluded Friday, we're going to take a look at the bracket for the wild card. Might ask you to do it again. If you're playing, I don't know. Hopefully you're not still playing in the tournament at that point. Hopefully you'll be qualified out. But guys, look for another video as we get closer to the end of the week. We will do one as the wild card bracket begins to fill out. Thank you guys so much for watching this time around, and I will see you guys bright and early Thursday morning at 11 a.m. for the start of the PPL Finals.